What if I told you that every single takeoff and landing you've ever watched from an airport window wasn't random at all, but part of a perfectly timed, invisible dance happening every second beneath your feet? A choreography so precise that one tiny mistake could shut down the entire airport in minutes. Most travelers think runways are just long strips of concrete where planes speed up, slow down, and that's it. But the truth is way deeper, way smarter, and honestly, kind of mind-blowing. Because behind every smooth departure and safe touchdown is a hidden world of silent signals, split-second decisions, weather whispers, ground crews moving like clockwork, and technology talking faster than humans ever could. And it all starts long before a plane even reaches the runway, because somewhere in a control tower high above the terminal, air traffic controllers are already stacking aircraft in invisible lines in the sky, adjusting their speeds by just a few knots, spacing them out by exact miles, not too close and not too far, like arranging beads on a string you can't see. While on the ground, runway coordinators are watching massive screens that show every aircraft as a tiny moving dot, predicting where it will be in the next 30 seconds, the next minute, even the next 5 minutes, because timing is everything. A runway is one of the most valuable pieces of real estate in aviation, sometimes handling a landing or takeoff every 60 to 90 seconds at major airports, which means there's zero room for hesitation. And here's the crazy part most people never realize. Planes don't just land when they arrive, they land when the runway slot opens up for them. And if a storm pops up or a slower aircraft blocks the sequence, the whole flow gets reshuffled instantly, like a giant puzzle being solved in real time. And while you're scrolling on your phone and see 23A, there's a whole team making sure your aircraft fits perfectly into this moving pattern. Because before a landing even happens, runway inspectors may have already swept the surface for debris, known as FOD, foreign object debris, which can be something as small as a loose bolt or as big as a broken piece of luggage. And even that tiny bolt could destroy an engine spinning at thousands of rotations per minute. So yes, people literally drive up and down runways checking every inch, while jets circle overhead waiting patiently. And then there's the wind. Oh, the wind is a huge secret boss of runway operations, because planes don't just land in any direction, they prefer landing into the wind to slow down faster and safer. So when wind shifts, runways switch too, sometimes in minutes, causing taxi routes to change, departure cues to flip, and pilots to suddenly approach from the opposite side of the airport. And that's when the unseen ballet becomes intense. Ground vehicles clearing paths, controllers updating clearances, pilots reprogramming flight computers, all happening calmly but insanely fast. And once a plane is cleared to land, it's not just come on down, it's actually following an invisible highway in the sky called an instrument approach, guided by radio beams, GPS signals, and now even satellite-based systems that can guide aircraft down to the runway within a few feet of precision, even in thick fog where pilots can't see anything until the last moments. And as the wheels touch the runway, another secret operation kicks in. Because braking isn't just about slamming on brakes. Planes use a combination of wheel brakes, reverse thrust from engines blasting air forward, and sometimes spoilers on the wings popping up to dump lift and push the plane firmly onto the ground. All calculated based on runway length, surface condition, rain, temperature, and aircraft weight. And yes, computers constantly help with those calculations, but pilots still manually feel the aircraft, adjusting smoothly, because too hard a brake overheats the system, and too soft could overshoot the runway. And while that landing plane is slowing down, guess what? Another plane is already rolling onto the same runway for takeoff from the other end, sometimes with just seconds separating them, but only when the system confirms the runway is clear by exact safety margins. And takeoff itself is a secret performance too, because pilots don't just push the throttle and go. They set precise power levels based on temperature, runway slope, wind speed, and aircraft load. And there are specific speeds like V1, rotate, and V2 that must be hit within exact distances, because after V1, a takeoff must continue even if an engine fails, and before V1, it can safely stop, which means every takeoff is pre-planned like a mini mission. And behind that, runway sensors embedded in the pavement measure friction levels, moisture, and sometimes even ice formation, sending real-time data back to operations centers, helping decide if the runway needs to be closed for plowing, spraying anti-ice chemicals, or drying procedures. And in snowy airports, there's a whole snow ballet too. Massive plow trucks moving in perfect formation across runways like synchronized swimmers, clearing snow in minutes instead of hours, because every closed runway costs airlines millions in delays. And then there's lighting, which most travelers never think about, but runway lights are coded by color and intensity to guide pilots visually, with white lights in the center, red lights at the end warning of runway limits, green lights at taxiway entrances, and even flashing lights that guide pilots to the correct runway in poor visibility. And all of these can be controlled remotely by towers or even automatically adjusted based on weather conditions, making the runway literally talk to the pilot through light. And here's something wild. Some airports use surface radar systems that track every moving object on the ground. Planes, trucks, people, even animals sometimes. And if anything accidentally enters an active runway, alarms go off instantly to prevent disaster, because runway incursions are one of the biggest hidden dangers in aviation. But thanks to technology and training, they're extremely rare. And speaking of training, runway controllers go through intense simulations where they practice aborted takeoffs, blown tires, aircraft stuck on runways, medical emergencies on landing planes, and sudden weather closures, all so that when real life throws chaos, they stay calm and keep the choreography flowing. And pilots train too, repeatedly practicing rejected takeoffs, crosswind landings, and low visibility approaches in simulators that feel terrifyingly real because the runway doesn't forgive mistakes easily. And what makes all this even more fascinating is how different airports design their runway systems based on traffic volume, wind patterns, and geography, with some having parallel runways that allow simultaneous landings and takeoffs, others with intersecting runways where timing becomes extra critical, and mega hubs like Atlanta or Heathrow running near maximum capacity all day long, moving thousands of aircraft daily like a perfectly tuned machine. And yet, despite all this precision, there's still a human touch everywhere. Controllers listening closely to pilot voices for stress or confusion, ground crews communicating with hand signals and radios, pilots visually checking conditions even when computers say it's okay, because aviation knows that technology is powerful, but human awareness is irreplaceable. And that combination is what keeps millions of people safe every single day. And when delays happen, when you're stuck on the tarmac wondering why nothing's moving, chances are it's because somewhere in this unseen choreography, a single piece needs to realign. Maybe a storm cell passed too close, maybe a runway inspection found debris, maybe an aircraft needed more spacing, and instead of risking chaos, the system pauses like a dancer holding a pose until the rhythm is right again. And that pause, though annoying, is actually safety in action. And the next time you feel your plane smoothly lift off or gently touch down, remember that it wasn't luck. It was the result of thousands of tiny decisions layered together in seconds, made by people and machines working in harmony. A secret ballet that runs non-stop beneath the noise of engines and announcements. And honestly, it's one of the most impressive hidden systems humans have ever created. Because every flight is proof that chaos can be organized, that massive machines can move with elegance, and that invisible teamwork can keep the world connected safely. And if there's one simple suggestion I'll leave you with, it's this. The next time you're at an airport, don't rush to scroll your phone during takeoff or landing. Look out the window, watch the runways, the lights, the moving planes, and appreciate the unseen choreography happening in real time. Because once you notice it, air travel will never feel ordinary again.